Okay, so we should be good to go. Okay, everybody, so I today have created this training called Creating a Catch-Up Plan, and I did this because it's midterm and this is a really good time to kind of take stock of where you're at in your classes and what you need to do to get caught up. So this is a perfect time if you're feeling a little bit behind, if you're feeling a little bit lost, to take the time to create a catch-up plan and try to get back on track. And it is totally possible to get back on track. So I know that you might be feeling, you know, a little lost or, hold on, I'm going to admit these people. There we go. A little bit lost or, you know, maybe even a little bit hopeless, but believe me, this is a good time to do everything that you can to get back on track, and it can have really positive results. Okay, so let's jump in. Okay, so the first thing that I need you to do is check in via the Navigate for Students app. So if you don't have this, this is definitely an app that you should download. It's super helpful for making many of your appointments here at the school. So you can make appointments for tutoring, you can make appointments for academic success coaching, I think advising, I'm not sure what else, but it's, for me, it's the most user-friendly way of making and managing your appointments. So if you don't have it, definitely download it. It's just called Navigate for Students app. If you do have it, what I want you to do is open it up, and you need to look for something called your to-dos. It's right here. So if you open up the app, it'll say like, okay, you have 6 to-dos for today. So you click it, and then here it will have the list of to-dos. So for example, this one is right here, and then all you need to do is just put a little check. And this is a way that we can track attendance. Now, if you don't have the Navigate for Students app, go ahead and download it, and then you can just check in and do that to do whenever you have it downloaded. Okay, so who is this training for? So you may feel like you need a catch-up plan if, you know, it's midterm and you have fallen behind in school. Now, you may have fallen behind for a variety of reasons. You may have fallen behind for one course or many different courses. It doesn't matter. This training is here to help you with that. There are a variety of reasons why people may have fallen behind. One of the biggest ones is just lacking time management skills. So if you feel like, okay, I've fallen a little bit behind, or I'm not on track with my stuff because I don't have the best time management skills, this can be a training that can help you. It can help you get organized, catch up, and then stay on track, and help you feel like you do have enough time to do all of your tasks and assignments. And then, you know, you may have had some sort of outside factor impact your ability to do your studies. This semester could be an accident, it could be COVID, it could be you had to move. All of those things can really take up your time and prevent you from staying on track. So there's a lot of reasons why you know, you could be in this situation right now, and the focus is now like, okay, we've had these things, but let's try to focus and see how we can identify those things and then move forward. So a little bit about me. I'm an academic success coach, and there are 2 of us. So my name is Kristen Espinar, and the other one is Sam Lee. And if you don't know what academic success coaching is, we basically focus on helping you build good time management skills, organizational skills. We set you up with systems for success. Now, we work in the Learning Center, and in the Learning Center, we also offer tutoring. Tutoring is more about concepts and specific questions you have about courses, where we focus more on how to build better systems and habits for success. If you don't know anything about the TLC, if you haven't been to check us out, we do have a lot of resources for you. So we have the academic success coaching, we do have tutoring, We used to have something called BrainFuse, but we've just changed it. It's now called NetTutor, and actually you can find it in any Canvas course that you have. Just open Canvas, go to the side, and there's on that bar, there's a tab called Online Tutoring. So you can click that, and there's actually, I think it's 24/7. So if you have like a math question at midnight and you're freaking out on your catch-up plan, you can go there and get some math help. And that would be live tutoring, but we also have where you can just like drop off a paper and get feedback, written feedback on your paper. So that's a really good resource that I recommend using. We have the Writing Center, so if you want help crafting a paper, you can make live appointments with our Writing Center, and they can be virtual or in person. The NetTutor, the online tutoring inside of your Canvas course, you can schedule live tutoring for writing there as well. And then we do these workshops. We try to survey all of the students and find out what are some of the issues that you need the most help with. And then we also look at what we're seeing in our coaching with students and to determine the topics for the workshops. And we thought this was a pretty timely one because it's midterm, but also because we do see that students struggle a lot and tend to get behind and do need some help with a catch-up plan. So I hope that it is helpful for you. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to try to understand why you need a catch-up plan, what has happened to put you in a situation to need a catch-up plan. Then we're going to talk about how to clean your schedule, how to prioritize your work, and then how to use your resources. Okay, so the first important thing is to understand why. So it's really important to understand, what's been happening that has created this situation. And I alluded to this a little bit in the beginning. So the first one is time management and organization. So many students, I notice, like this is one of the things that I work with most with students, and I notice that a lot of students just don't have these skills for time management and organization. So a lot of students are not using a planner, they're not understanding how to break down their tasks, they may not have a good organizational system. For example, I prefer Google Drive. If I were a student right now, I would be using Google Drive, but of course you have OneDrive through the university. I think those are really good systems because they keep everything in one place. You can access it in a variety of places. Everything is online. It saves automatically. You can download everything in a variety of formats. You can share and collaborate. So those are my personal recommendations. But then, we also have a school resource to help you with this. So if you feel like I'm terrible at time management and I really need to figure out how to do this planner and how to break down my tasks, then you will want to just make a meeting with us, and we can actually sit down with you and make an individualized plan for you and show you how to use your planner. I tend to do this. This is probably one of my most common trainings. I'm going to give an overview of it here as well. But like I said before, other factors could have impacted your studies. So things like moving, work, you may have family commitments or family issues that you need to attend to. You could have had some health issue or an injury. Sometimes I see students are a little bit too involved with outside things, like they may be too involved with organizations or clubs. They may simply spend too much time with their friends instead of prioritizing studying. But then you may have, ADHD or a mental health issue like anxiety or depression may come up. You may have a learning disorder. So all of these things really are outside things that do impact your ability to do well in school, and it's important that you address those. So we do have some school resources for this. If you have some kind of outside thing that happened, like a health or injury or some big family commitment came up, a good school resource for you is the Dean of Students. If you have ADHD or maybe a learning disorder or anxiety, it's also important for you to talk to accessibility, because they can give you certain accommodations that can help you in school. For example, if you have ADHD or anxiety, they might be able to give you an accommodation for extra test taking time, which can help you. And then, of course, we do have the Wellness Center. So if you feel like anxiety or depression is impacting your studies, I would really encourage you to talk to the counselor. You get, I believe they've increased it from 10 to 12 free sessions per semester. So that can be super helpful. But what I want you to know is the most important thing is to maintain a positive attitude, because you can be in a situation that feels like you are just want to keep everybody muted here. If you feel the need, like if you have to do create a catch-up plan, you may be having like a lot of negative feelings, right? Like you may be feeling lost or overwhelmed or stressed, or you may feel like you can't catch up. But the most important thing is to kind of try to let that go, maintain a positive attitude, focus on what you can do, and then focus on the future. So instead of focusing on what went wrong, I think you just have to accept, yes, these things have impacted my studies, but now I'm going to do everything that I can to move forward. So I think having that positive mindset is really helpful. Now, the first thing that I recommend doing if you haven't done this or you don't have a good system in place is to clean up your schedule. Okay, so the way I recommend doing this is to apply my personal power planning strategy. Now, if you want the full details of this strategy, you can get this in the Success Library. When I send you this replay, it will direct you to the Success Library and you can go and check it out in detail, or if you take from this but want more, or later are thinking, hey, what was that she was talking about? You can always go there and find a recording of it. But basically there's two aspects to creating a really effective schedule. The first one is you have to create a schedule. So you really have to know what you're doing, where you need to be, and what you should be doing at every time. And this is not like only just, okay, I need to be in my classes at these times. What I want you to do is look at your whole life and look at your entire schedule and include these aspects. So your fixed commitments, and these are things like your classes and your maybe work or any other fixed commitment that you have. Maybe you have to pick up your little sister from school every day at 3 o'clock. That's a fixed commitment. So I want you to time block that and block it off on your calendar, anything that does not change. But after that, I want you to look and say, okay, where are the times that I'm going to study? So what days and what times, now looking at my calendar and my fixed commitments, what days and times do I have to block off to study? So maybe with your schedule, you see, okay, I have, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the afternoons, and every Tuesday, Thursday from 11 to 3. So on your calendar, you would block that off and you would call it your study time. And in this study time, this is where you make a commitment to yourself to study, right? This is your time to study. This is the time that you've designated to do it. And you've decided to add this structure into your life and make this commitment to studying. Another thing that I want you to do, there's an error here, but is I want you to add a power planning hour. And this is something where at the beginning of the week, so on Sunday or Monday, and it's going to be the same. So this is something I want you to put on your schedule. So every Sunday at 11 a.m., you take 1 or 2 hours to look at your week ahead and identify what you need to do. And then you're going to put it on your agenda, or you're going to create checklists of tasks that you need to do. So for example, let's say you've decided to do it on Sunday mornings. So on Sunday morning, you sit down with your computer, you pull out all of your Canvas courses, your syllabi from your classes, you look at your announcements, notes from teachers, that sort of thing. And you see everything that you need to do. You can put, you put deadlines onto your schedule, your calendar. So I would put due dates, everything that's really important on there, but then you also want to look at breaking those tasks down. So let's say you have a paper that's due in 2 weeks. You don't want to just put the paper on your checklist, right? You want to put like all the things that it's going to take to complete that paper, which could include research, taking notes, making an outline, organizing your ideas, writing a rough draft, sending it to NetTutor for feedback, and also writing a final draft and submitting it. So that could be anywhere from 3 to 7 steps, depending how detailed you are. And I want you to write those down and then assign them to days. So in this way, you're making a checklist of the tasks that you need to do and you're assigning them to different days. So here's an example. I've done a lot of work with students, so a lot of examples that I'm using here are examples that I've worked through with students in the past. Okay, so here's an example of the schedule. So if we have the schedule first, we can say like, okay, we have, these are all the times that I have, like I have English Lit, I have math, I have history, I have first year writing, and I kind of just made up these times, but this is what my schedule looks like. These are the days and the times that I have to study. So, and this is an app that I call, that is the Power Planner. So if you want to use it, you can, but right here you can see that there's the schedule and then here's the agenda. So you have the schedule, you create this, you have your visual system of what you're supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to be doing it. And then here you have your study time, and this is where you're going to be doing all of your tasks for work or for school that you assign. So what you've looked at in the power planning, you can then say, okay, I'm going to do these tasks on Monday, these tasks on Tuesday, these tasks on Wednesday. Now, let's see. Okay, so this is an example of what the agenda looks like. So I had the schedule and then this is the agenda. So using the Power Planner, what you can do is on Sunday during your power planning time, you say like, okay, these are the tasks that I need to do. You assign them to different days so that when it's your study time, you sit down and you say, okay, I need to do this and this and this, and you can just tick it off. But it doesn't have to look like that. It can look like a variety of things. So I have a lot of copies from work that students have done. So for example, this student, she made like a calendar and then she made her checklists and assigned them to days. So here she's saying, okay, these are the tasks I need to do on these different days. She has them in green. She has her big assignment due dates in red, but these are like the breakdown of the tasks. And of course she put, you know, I think work stuff in blue and then like family stuff in purple. So she also added color coding, and this was a nice way. And then she just crosses things off when they're done or no longer applicable. I had another student that did this. So they just created their schedule. I like this. They just really put it on a piece of paper and said like, okay, this is my time for this and these classes, and these are my study times. And then she put her tasks on little like Post-it notes and said, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing on these days. I like this because there's a little bit of freedom. You can kind of move this around. And then each week you can just take them off and then, you know, add them again. And there's that flexibility for people who feel like they need a little bit of flexibility and ability to move things around. Okay, so once you've gotten organized with your schedule, now you need to look at what you're missing and you need to start prioritizing your work. So this is where you're going to go a little bit deeper. So the first thing that I want you to do is look at the assignments that you're missing, but also understand how you're being assessed in the class. So I often will ask students like, you know, what are you being assessed on? And they don't really understand that question. So what I mean by that is I want you to pull out your paper syllabus and look at probably the first page where they'll say like grading scale or something like that, and they'll show what's called the grade weighting of the class. So what I want you to do is understand how your grades are being weighted. So for example, let's say you have a history class, you have 3 essays in it and 10 quizzes, but the essays are worth 60% of your grade and the quizzes are worth 40%. You know now that the essays are going to be very important for you to work on, to focus on, and to prioritize. Of course, the quizzes are important. You can't just blow them off, but you know that the weighting of these essays is going to very much impact your grade. And so you need to take them more seriously than you would have if you were just kind of like, oh yeah, I've got an essay due, right? Like understanding that weighting adds the importance for you. And it also is going to help you prioritize what you're to work on if you're missing work. So when you're looking at the weighting of your courses, and I would take it course by course. So take one course, break it down, look at the weighting of each things, and then maybe make like a checklist of the work that you're missing from there. You can then prioritize what you're missing and what's the most important thing to work on, right? So if you're not going to get everything done, what's your number one top goal to complete from that course based on the weighting and the points and how it's going to impact your grade? So I want you to have this conversation with yourself, right? What is the weighting of the grades for each class? What am I missing? And then, also how long is it going to take for me to complete each of these? Because maybe you're missing 2 essays and 5 quizzes, but those quizzes are super easy. So you might be like, well, maybe I'll just spend a day like catching up on those quizzes, and then I'm going to spend the rest of the week putting in more time on catching up on those papers and using the resources like the Writing Center or the net tutoring. So you need to have that conversation in your head, and you really need to understand the weighting of the grade and also the amount of time it's going to take you to complete each of those activities. So once you do that, I want you to create like a chart or a checklist of your missing work. So if you're just missing work for one class, just, take that class and do this whole thing with the weighting, make a list of your important or of your missing grades, and you might want to put them in order of importance for how you've decided that you want to complete it. Now, students find like bullet points are super helpful. Sometimes students will write to their teachers and their teacher will send them like a list of bullet points. This is what you're missing, but you should be able to do that on your own just by using the information you have in Canvas and your syllabus. So creating bullet points or checklists for each class is super helpful. And then you want to just add that into your power planning. So, at the beginning of the week, when you're doing your power planning for the week, you can't, like, let's say you're in week 7 or 8 of class, you can't just like skip week 7 or 8 because you'll continue to fall behind. So what I recommend that you do is do your power planning for the week and say, okay, what's due this week in each of my classes, and assign the tasks that you're going to do each week to different days. So just like we saw right here, right, you're going to say, okay, I have to do this on this day, this on this day, this on this day. And then after you've done that, you can then start creating a catch-up plan for your missing work. Now, I don't recommend that you add too much time, right? Like you want to, I would say like add one thing for each day to work on. So like if you have an essay, you can make that you're behind on, you could make the goal of like, okay, I'm going to finish, today's Sunday, I'm going to finish this on Friday. So that means you can take one step of that essay every day and just add that to your regular work so that you're not completely overwhelmed. So you do have to have this planning in place, and you do have to have some manageable time expectations with that about what you can do in that time. So yeah, so you're then going to create your daily catch-up goals. So after you create your regular agenda at the beginning of the week, add catch-up goals. And it can be 1 or 2 per day, but you need to evaluate everything. You need to evaluate what's going on in your life and what is manageable for you. It could be that, it was spring break, or for next spring break, you can say like, okay, this is a perfect time to catch up on everything. But, spring break is past now. So you have to say what is manageable, what is realistic, how many goals, additional goals can I do per day? And I would say 1 or 2 is a good amount. But if you have a big period of time, like maybe the weekends are good for you and you can catch up on quite a bit, I would definitely encourage you to do that. So we've made some like catch-up plans with students before, and one thing you can do is say like, okay, I'm missing module 2 here, so this is the topic and these are the assignments that I need to do. So here's an example of a checklist. Maybe from history, these are the examples of the checklist. So you make these checklists and then you assign them to days. So if we say like, okay, we already looked at our schedule and our schedule is, you know, we've got first year writing, we've got English Lit, we've got history, we've got math. If you're using this Power Planner, what you would do is add your classes here, but I would actually add an additional class and call it like catch up. So when you create your agenda, like I said, you're going to say these are the things I need to do each day, and then you're going to add 1 or 2 catch-up things each day. Now, of course, you'll need to communicate with your teacher. So the first thing that you should probably do is really take advantage of your resources and communicate with your teacher before you get started on this catch-up plan, because your teacher might say like, no way, you can't do this. But a lot of teachers are very helpful and they do want you to succeed. So what I would do is, actually, before you do any of this, is go and talk with your teacher in office hours, and you're going to want to communicate and explain. So this is what happened, you know, all of these reasons before. I'm working, it's really helpful if you work with an academic success coach, because it shows that you're using your resources. So you could come to us, I could help you make set up a plan, or Sam can help you set up a plan, and then you can write your teacher and say, hey, this has happened. I'm very sorry. I'm working with an academic success coach to create a catch-up plan. Will you let me make up these assignments, and if so, which ones? While you're there, I want you to ask for any additional support that you can get. So, hey, do you have any study guides for this? What about model responses? Do you have extra practice papers or whatever review that I can use? And also take feedback on your past work. So what went well, what didn't? Where did you lose points? Because you don't want to keep losing those points. Now, your classmates are also a good resource. So I always say whenever you get into a class, like immediately look around and find a class friend, someone you can, you know, exchange numbers with, you can share notes with if you miss class, you can catch up, have somebody that can be a lifeline if you feel that you're lost. If you don't have one right now, this is another thing that the Navigate for Students app is really good for. It has a study buddies feature. So for each class, you can see who is looking for help and who wants to work together. So you can use that study buddies feature to find students that are actively looking for study partners. And then just as a study tip, I would actually kind of create a group with those study buddies. You might want to even take like a group Google Doc of notes so that you can all compile and share your notes. You can probably do review sessions together. There's a lot of things that you can do together to support each other in passing. And then of course the school has a ton of resources that I mentioned already, right? Tutoring, the Writing Center, NetTutor is great, especially if you're panicking at late night over a concept and need some support. Us in Success Coaching, the Dean of Students, Accessibility, MESA, and your advisor is always a great one to go to as well. So we are here for you. I know a lot of students say, I'm super independent, I don't need any help. But in our experience, students really do need help, and it's good to get advice and support. It's not a bad thing. And the university wants you to do this. You know, they've put these support in place for you. Okay, I'm going to jump into some questions. These are all questions that I got for students. Our time is up, it's 9, so if you want to hop off, you're free to hop off. You'll get a replay. I'm going to continue and I'm going to add these questions here. If you have questions that you want to ask in addition to this, just pop them into the chat. I don't see any yet, so I'm just going to jump in. Okay, so one student said to me, there's one class which is online that I just feel overwhelmed with. There's so much reading and I struggle to fit that all in the week during the week with my schedule. So this is where it's really important to do that cleaning up your schedule part and setting that schedule and deciding, okay, this is the time that I have to study. And I think it's important to see if you have enough time to study. So a lot of people I notice have a lot of outside things going on and they don't actually have enough time to study. So sometimes you may need to make priority changes. You may just need to say, like, I love being a part of this org, but it's really taking up a lot of my time and I'm falling behind in school, and school is my priority. So maybe I need to let that go, right? Or I've got 2 jobs and it's taking up all of my time. And although it's going to be like a crunch on my money, maybe I need to let, this job go for this semester so I can catch up. It's a matter of having that conversation of priorities with yourself. And I understand that that's a difficult conversation to have, but you do have to have it. And then when you do, you want to look and create that study time, make sure you do have enough study time for everything. And then I would break down the reading into small manageable bits and put them into your study time. So, if you're feeling really frustrated with the reading, you might want to do it even smaller and just do like 1 chapter per day, but then make sure that you do it every day. How do you maintain once you've caught up? So the good thing about using what I've said is if you create this system, and actually I really recommend creating the system from day 1. So if you haven't done it already, do it now. Midterm is a good time, but at the beginning of next semester, start off the right way with this power planning strategy. And this is going to help you maintain everything once you've caught up, because you'll have already created a system and now you'll just have less work because you're taking out the catch-up work. How do I balance past due work while keeping up with what's due now? So I think we addressed this in creating your schedule. You do have to prioritize what's working or what you need to do now, and then just in small manageable bits, you're going to want to add that into your plan. With your teacher, when you talk to them about your makeup time, talk about a time frame and be honest and say, if they said, like, yeah, you can do everything, but it has to be due next week. You could say, well, I don't want to make the same mistake and I want to continue to prioritize the work now. Can we communicate or negotiate this deadline? So that's called advocating for yourself, and there's nothing wrong with asking for what you need. So make sure that you do that, and to make sure that it's something that's manageable and you're able to do. Okay, someone said, yes, I have a question. Moving forward, catching up how to talk to professors. So I think we talked about this, but I do think it's important to talk to professors. You may have the feeling like I've ignored everything up until now, and I'm totally afraid to talk to my teachers. But you do have to have that conversation, right? You do have to address it, because if you never address it with them, they're just going to think, well, this student doesn't care about anything and they don't want to put in any of the work. And it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy and a really negative cycle. So if you feel nervous about talking in person, you certainly can send an email. And actually in the Success Library, where you will get this replay, I put a module in about like templates for communicating with your teacher. So you may want to use that, but basically do what we said before, right? This is what happened. I take responsibility for it. I'm working with a success coach. I'm trying to create a catch-up plan. This is what I'd like to do. Can I get an extension on this, and until how long? So I would keep it simple in a friendly manner. Okay, one student here just put a comment. I think you may have put a comment into this training. I'll answer it now. But Taylor says, a bunch of my teachers either never respond to my emails or don't accept any late work regardless of the reason. What should I do in that case? Okay, so never responding to emails is definitely a problem. So what I tell students to do in that case is don't wait too long for them to not respond, right? So like, let's say you email them on Monday and they haven't returned your email by Wednesday. If you wait, all it's going to do is be worse for you. It's not worse for them, it's worse for you. So what I would do is take the email that you sent, forward it again, right? And say something in a friendly tone, but hey, I'm not sure if you missed this. Did you see this? What can you let me know about this? If they don't respond again, you're going to want to loop your advisor in. So go to your advisor and say, hey, I'm having this problem. I'm not getting a response. What should I do? I would probably take that email that you've sent 2 times already, forward it again, and then CC your advisor. Right, so you're kind of like escalating it a little bit and keeping your advisor looped in onto what's happening. It could keep escalating. It could go up to the chair of the department, but I would say once you have an admin staff looped in, an advisor is really going to be able to advocate for you to get that support. So in terms of emails, that's what I would do. And that's a good business practice for after college. Okay, now if teachers don't accept any late work, regardless of the reason, sometimes there's nothing you can do about that, right? That's just part of being in college. Sometimes you're going to have great teachers that are really want to help you, and some are going to say, no, this class doesn't work like that. That's not going to work. So on one level, you may have to just accept that. But if you have another issue, like let's say you had long COVID, you had really severe case of COVID, and it really impacted your ability to do work. What I would do is go to the dean of students, and they can help advocate for you. So it's escalating it a little bit. It's involving the dean of students. Generally, they will help you to work with the teacher in order to get like an extension on that work. But it has to be something like, there was a health issue, or there was an injury, or there was a bereavement, something kind of big that interrupted your studies. Now, if you're having, let's say you have ADHD and you don't have an accommodation in place, but that was what was impacting your studies, right? You procrastinated, you couldn't do it, and then you started like spiraling about it. That's something that you should be speaking to accessibility about. So if it just comes down to you don't have ADHD, you just didn't do your work, and the teacher says no, there really isn't that much that you can do. You may have to just accept that. But in my experience, and I work with students with this a lot, most students really do want their teachers to succeed, or their students to succeed. So you'll get a mixture of both. And I would look at all of those options and see which best applies for you. Okay, someone says, okay, how to not procrastinate, getting your mind motivated to get work done. So basically the not procrastinating comes down to using those checklists and assigning them to different days. If you know that like you're not going to do that, sometimes, because I'm actually kind of like that. So like for building these workshops, I'm super busy, but I need to do these workshops. So I will put them onto my schedule, and I know that it's going to take me, I don't know, 2 or 3 days to do a very good workshop, but I may book like 4 or 5 days in my schedule because I know like that first day that I get the alert, I'm not going to do it. But what it's going to do is it's going to get it into my head, and then the like timeline ticker, the deadline timeline ticker starts ticking. And then it's like, it kind of gets me into that mood of like, oh, okay, I gotta do it. So kind of doing some mind hacks for that is really helpful. Bea says, what should I do if my professor has the lectures a week before the assignments are due, especially if they are intense assignments? So for that, you probably do have to do the time management suggestions that I said about the power planning. One thing that I see that's difficult for students is when teachers have kind of like very different schedules of when they like release content for students. So that really can be a challenge, but you're going to have to get organized on Sundays or however far in advance that you want to get Sundays, and know like, okay, lecture is released day 1 and assignment is due day 7. You know that already. So you can plan ahead and say like, these are the priority for like this class has to take a fast priority. So on days 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever, I'm going to put that in my study time, that's what I'm working on those days. So I actually see that as a benefit because it's a very clear schedule and you can accelerate your work a little bit with that. Now, if you're having concerns about it, again, communicate with your teacher. So, hey, I'm having a hard time doing this. How do you recommend doing this for me? What tips do you have to succeed? Because they're the ones that have created that, and they're the ones that can tell you what they think is the best way to do it. And also giving that feedback to them may make them think like, hey, students are struggling with this, maybe I should adapt this. So having that communication is good on both ends. Okay, The student said, I feel a lot of shame when I fall behind. What can I do to help with that? So first of all, you're not alone. Everybody feels shame when they fall behind. I've done it myself. I'm doing a master's degree course, and I fell behind too. I had to move. I had a lot of things. I fell behind, and I had those same like panicky, shameful feelings. But I said, you know what? I need to give the same advice to myself that I give to my students, and that is I need to create this catch-up plan and do it. Was it accelerated and stressful? Yes. Was I able to do it? Yes. Right. And what I did was I continually revised my schedule each week. And if I missed a day on something, I would say, okay, I missed it on this day. Well, that means I need to do it on this other day. So it was kind of like a constant paying attention to the schedule, doing the power planning, and then being very careful to move things around if I missed something. Okay, someone said how to deal with a heavy assignment load, and I would say this has a lot to do with prioritizing your work. If you have a heavy assignment load and you have a lot of things outside of class, of school, then you may have to have that prioritizing conversation with yourself. But you definitely need to look and see if you actually have enough study time for the assignments that you need to do. And if not, you need to see where you can add that in to complete it. And then again, use the power planning strategy to try to break it down and make it manageable on a variety of days for you. Okay, how to decipher what's important, tips for sticking to a schedule, how to decipher how much time to set aside for readings, studying, writings, tips on focus. Okay, so I think we talked about this a little bit already, how to prioritize, how to do the schedule. You know, when students do this power planning schedule for me, and a lot of them do it, they tend to stick to it. Even students that have troubles with procrastination and ADHD and things like that. So really having that schedule and that making that commitment to yourself is what you need to do to stay on track. You can use an accountability partner, so you can make a meeting with me or Sam each week. You can take 30 minutes and say like, just check in, you know, like this is what I'm doing. And then I will say, and do just stick to your schedule. And like just having someone to kind of report to helps a lot of people keep on track. So that's a really good thing to take advantage of. And then in terms of time, if you don't know how long it's taking you to do things, you need to be testing it. So if you say like, okay, I think it's going to take an hour for me to do this reading, time yourself. Did it take an hour or did it take 2? And then you need to adjust that in the next week and the time that you prepare and set aside for those tasks. Also, breaking it down into steps along the way is going to help you. So with writing, like, okay, you can't do that all at once. So break it down into the steps that I said before, right? Researching and doing your outline and putting one of those for each day is going to help it make it more manageable. And probably there will be, you know, like, okay, I thought this was going to take 2 hours, but it took 4 hours. It's good to know you need to pay attention to those things and then also adapt to the following week. I have a lot of trainings in the Success Library about ADHD, focusing, that sort of thing, so you might want to check that out as well. Okay, should I start with assignments that are currently due or where I got behind and work forward? So like I said, start with assignments that are currently due and then add one that you got behind and work forward. Okay, yes, I'm behind on some writing assignments, and it's hard to think clearly for each assignment when you're stressed about getting each one done. Next would be feeling burnt out after finally catching up, just to start all over again. And then third, not feeling motivated to finish the work anymore. Yeah, I mean, I think like, especially if you didn't take advantage of spring break, you might be like, oh, I'm not motivated to do this. But I think using this system where you're staying on track with the work that you're doing right now and then just making like one goal each day is going to be the most manageable way to do it and stay motivated. I don't think like sitting down and just like doing a bunch of work and then getting behind on what you're doing right now is really the best way to do it. Okay, I want to know what I should do if I'm trying to email teachers and they aren't responding. Okay, Taylor, I think that was your question. I think we addressed that. I've been behind since week 4. Last week during spring break, I did not get caught up. Yeah. So, you know, honestly, ideally, spring break's an awesome time to get caught up, right? But like when it happens, you're like, I really want to just rest with my friends. And so you end up not doing that. So again, you know, just start with where you're at. keep on track with what you're doing right now, and then add like 1 or 2 goals. I like to think of them as goals per day. Don't beat yourself up if you don't do them. But if you set up those goals, don't do any of them, then that's a real procrastination issue. And I would say, come to us with the academic success coaches. We can revise your plan, do some accountability meetings where, we make the plan, and then each week just give us like 15, 20 minutes. And we'll say, okay, how are you doing? Did you do this? And we can kind of help you work through that. Just having those conversations can be really helpful. Okay, who should I tune to for academic support if I'm struggling to grasp a very specific concept and I can't find peers who are interested in collaborating? Okay, so if we have tutoring for this at the Learning Center or in NetTutor, you definitely, that is what that's for, right? The concept support. But if you have like a higher level class, we don't tend to have support for that. So what I would do is do the study buddies feature. So you can find students that are looking for study buddies there. So just go there, and I think you have to make yourself a study buddy. It's a button on Navigate. And then that is going to help you find people to work with. But you could also email your teacher and say hey, do you know anyone that, and maybe the teacher could even make a post like, hey, this is where other people are looking for partners for help. Okay, it's not late assignments, but just doing poorly on exams that tank my grade. I've studied 10 hours a chapter each week, addressed my professor for videos, wrote my own notes, completed extra problems to understand I still do poorly on exams. What else can I do? Well, depending on what the course is, I would definitely say, go to tutoring. Especially you might want to find a tutor that's taken that class before. And we kind of have lists of that. We say okay, this tutor has worked with this teacher. So we'll know what tutors we have for classes that can kind of advise you on how they were successful with that teacher and their style and how to study for tests. So that's a really good resource. If you're doing this all for one teacher and you're good in your other classes, no, it's either this teacher's difficult or you are particularly struggling in this topic, right? If the teacher is difficult, there's sometimes not a lot that you can do. I would say you're doing quite a bit already, which is great. You seem to be doing most of what you can already. If you're not getting the feedback from teachers that you need, it could be that you're not having a very supportive teacher, which unfortunately is just the case sometimes. But I would say come to the tutoring center, the Learning Center, talk to the tutors, find out if we have a tutor that's worked on that class, kind of get their insights, maybe do the study buddies, try to see who can help you with the feedback on that. And then also maybe come and do like a academic success coaching session so we can talk about a little bit more detail and see what we can find out, and also maybe loop in your advisor on these problems. So if you're only having problems on this one class, I would say it's the teacher. If you're having this amount of problems in all of your classes, there's something else that we need to look at. So come to us and we can talk and direct you to who you need to talk to. Okay, we kind of addressed this. Should I start with ones that are currently due? Okay. And the last one, how can we best support students with deteriorating mental health? I want to know how to help encourage students to actively work and learn in classes. So first of all, most people right now have deteriorating mental health. Really, everybody does. I mean, it's been a tough 2 years, and we see this, we see that students are, I think there was some quote that the use of mental health services at the university has increased by 60% in the past 2 years. So first of all, students that are struggling with mental health, anxiety, depression, whatever, this is very common. You are definitely not alone. But it is something that needs to be addressed. You do need support for it because the connection between anxiety, depression, and school and academics is very closely tied. You do have support for us. You have us, the academic success coaches. We can help you with the academic support. And then we have the wellness that's going to help you address those mental health issues. One problem we see is sometimes students kind of mix those issues together in with the academics. And in order to succeed, you kind of have to separate them, find a separate place to talk about each of those, and then using the resources at the university can help you with that. So the academic success coaching can help you stay focused on academics, separate that anxiety a little bit, and then the wellness can help you just address those issues. And, you know, I've worked with a lot of students that are struggling with that, and I notice they actually do pretty good when they're able to separate the anxiety from it and just focus on the academics. So take advantage of those resources. They really are there for you. They are necessary right now. If you know that somebody else is struggling, please encourage them to go. If you know that somebody's having an emergency situation, please walk them down to the wellness center because they will take emergency visits and help on a daily basis. Okay, guys, thank you so much. This has been a really great training. I love your questions. I will be sending out a replay. Please remember to check in on Navigate and remember that we offer these resources. So success coaching, tutoring, NetTutor, writing center. We have more workshops. You'll get, the replay will come in the form of a link to our success library. There are a lot of workshops that we've done there too that could be helpful for you. We have all these other trainings. You might find them helpful. And I just want to thank you for your time. This has been really great. If you have any questions that you don't want to address here, send them to me privately, set up an appointment. I'd love to contact you and you know, just be in contact. Ingrid says thank you. Taylor says thank you. Yes, thank you everyone for joining and staying a little bit long to talk to me. But have a great day. Okay. Bye and good luck. If you guys are successful with this catch-up plan, let me know, okay? If you make a nice visual of your catch-up plan, send me a picture so I can add it to my training and show off your success. All right, have a good one.